Sup schizos, local AA meeting disruptor Ryan Plus here, with booze. The silly topic I have today is a doozy, and now that the first few seconds are over, an honorably discharged Army vet with a meth addiction drank enough alcohol to double the legal driving limit and stole a tank post-divorce. To begin this absurd tale is our based mad lad, Sean Timothy Nelson. Sean was born in California on August 21st, 1959. Growing up in Claremont, San Diego, Sean would join the Army and train at Fort Knox. Yes, that Fort Knox with the gold and a couple of shootings. He was later stationed in Germany as a tank commander. Apparently, Sean had a difficult time in the military as he was separated in 1980 due to multifaceted disciplinary problems, leaving with an honorable discharge. This is conjecture, but if I had to guess, this is most likely where his addiction started, as the military is known for heavy drinking and substance abuse. Later, Sean would marry Susie Hellman in 1984 while pursuing a career in plumbing, eventually starting his own business in 1991. However, Sean was a patient at Sharp Memorial Hospital, which would prove to be a source of problems and future litigation. Before Sean's issues with the hospital arose, his wife had divorced him amid his addiction issues in 1991. Sean sued the hospital over a fight with an emergency guard and then sued them again in 1992 for malpractice. In the same year, his mother passed away. Both lawsuits were consolidated and dismissed in 1993. And all things considered, it's a little hard not to feel for him considering everything he just went through. When his brother was asked about the hospital situation, Sean's brother stated that he thought he had a raw deal there. Nelson did, however, seem to find things to keep himself busy. Neighbors of Sean Nelson considered him somewhat of a niche micro-celebrity, as he would spend nighttime hours digging for gold and mowing his lawn. Apparently, his yard hole was somewhat impressive, being a 20-foot backyard pit, of which I suppose is less impressive when he was on meth. As a side note, we should stop letting the homeless get kidnapped by human traffickers for cartel organ pharma and instead put their meth addiction to good use by giving them demolition equipment, telling them there's blue rock candy in 3-letter agency headquarters. If this ever is achieved, I will have a hearty laugh and deny ever endorsing this idea when the feds use this video for a warrant. Anyways, back to Sean's silly endeavors. The amphetamine addict also had a yard littered in junk, which probably didn't help the 9 police visits he suffered on calls ranging from domestic abuse to his van getting stolen, which was the bulk of his business inventory. This all happened in the period of 1994 to 1995. By May of 1995, Sean was facing medical problems like a spinal fracture, unemployment due to his livelihood being stolen, his utilities shut off, and an eviction notice. Also, his drug whore had recently left him. Nelson, understandably, made a statement alluring to suicide at this time. Presumably, with nothing left to lose, Nelson would go on to get really fucking high, get really fucking drunk, and get really fucking uncivil. And to top it all off, go steal a fucking tank. On the evening of May 17th, Sean infiltrated the California National Guard Armory at 6:30 p.m. He did this by being completely uncontested, driving his van onto base while scruffy and shirtless. Sean proceeded to break the padlocks on 3 different tanks before starting an M60A3. At 6:45, Sean crashed through the armory's gate, driving the tank through a residential neighborhood. Residents described the damage as intentional, as Sean targeted infrastructure like fire hydrants and a utility pole, leaving around 5K homes without power. Even a San Diego Police Department captain stated Nelson knew what he was doing and complimented him by stating he was working that tank pretty good. San Diego Police Department were alerted at 6:46 p.m. when a detective reported that he was following Nelson, and units arrived on the scene, closing down California State Route 163. Amazingly, Sean inflicted no injuries to anyone and only damaged utilities. After driving approximately 6 miles, crushing 40 cars, a bus bench, fire hydrants, striking bridges, and the aforementioned utility poles for a 25-minute rampage, Nelson crashed the tank into a 3-foot traffic barrier near Sharp Memorial Hospital. With 1 tank dislodged, 4 officers boarded the tank and had to bolt cutter the hatch to get in. Nelson refused to surrender and attempted to dislodge the officers by spinning the tank. The discrepancies in what happens next is a bit odd, as 4 different news outlets had a different version of how Nelson was shot. What is known is that he died of several gunshot wounds by police, and his blood alcohol level was double the legal limit. After Nelson's friend cried over the police not negotiating or using tear gas, the police chief understandably just said they had to stop this guy. It's a drunk meth addict in a tank. There's no defending this other than thinking Nelson was a badass for an emotional appeal. But we know how women operate in a courthouse, so. Speaking of the legal system's bias, culpability fell onto the California Guard for negligence, giving them responsibility. The state paid out a total of $149,201, which can be divided as $10,000 to Pacific Bell, $12,500 to the City of San Diego, and $40,965.69 to San Diego Gas and Electric, and the rest to individual citizens. Following the incident, there was a wave of speculation as to motives and causes. However, my takeaway from the story is that meth and alcohol make you a more credible threat to the government, while marijuana makes you an incapable loser. I don't endorse drug use. In fact, I don't even drink. I just know which addicts are objectively better. Anyways, the National Guard would go on to improve security, and by 1996, all tanks were moved to Fort Irwin or Camp Roberts, thus ending the tragic comedy of Nelson's meth tank escapades. And if you like what you saw, consider becoming a Patreon, picking up some merch, or beating that subscribe button until you owe it alimony. More content to come, so stay tuned. And as always, thank you all for watching.